I'm going to add an RT Trend web part to this page. The RT Trend web part works a lot like a regular Pi process book trend, if you're familiar with the process book application. It shows real-time data in a trend format. You can have updates in real time. You can go back and look at historical data. Here we go. Here's my trend. I need to go ahead and configure it like any other web part and point it to some kind of a data source, a Pi data source. In this case, I'll just point it to our favorite tag here, CDT158, and let's just go ahead and say OK. We'll talk more a little later about some of the options that you have when you're building these trends. But first, let's take a look at the functionality. I'll get out of edit mode, and let me scroll down. Yeah, here's our trend. As you can see, with this trend, we support all the typical features you see in Pi process book, like dragging trend cursors out so that we can drop them, show more information. There's an option here to do an ad hoc trend. So if I would like to see more data or have more flexibility in going in and changing the time span, for example, let's go back 4 days. Now this is something I can do with an ad hoc trend. Now this trend, just like the ad hoc trend, supports zooming in, and same as the process book trend as well. And as you're going to see in our next video, there is an RT or a Pi time range web part that will control the time span that you're displaying in real time. So that's something you can change without having to go into build mode. Now let's go into the modification mode here, go into build mode. I'll modify this. Let's just kind of go over some of the options that you have when you're first configuring this. As you can see, you can choose what time span you want. I'll go back -1 day instead of 2 hours. The update rate is defaulting to 15 seconds like most everything else on web parts. That means that if you're looking at the current data, every 15 seconds you'll get a new value. We can choose what the orientation of this should be. So for example, there is an option here for creating this in a vertical orientation. As you can see, that's one of the options we have right there, in which case we just end up with a vertical trend. There we go. And of course you can control what we show on the y-axis. So if you go through here, we have the same options that you'd find in our process book trend. You can choose to go with the database 0 and span, or just come up with a custom 0 on top of the range for the y-axis. Now auto range is simply going to use whatever the current values are and come up with an automatic value there. We support all the same things that we see in process book, as you can see, different timestamp formats. How do we label the timestamp? What do we put on the display? Do we put the engineering units? Do we put the value, etc., etc.? Now I'll go change this back to a normal looking trend. And in run mode, show you one more feature. That feature is the export to Excel. So this is one of those web parts that will export over to Excel. Now, depending on the version of Pi web parts you're currently using, it is a known bug that the save option is not working at this point. You would have to go ahead and open this up into a new Excel spreadsheet. So there we go. We're grabbing whatever was currently on your screen and dumping that into Excel. There we go. So if we had been zoomed in at a particular point in time, that's all we would have seen. By the way, just one minor footnote. You see the little greater than sign there, that little arrow? That indicates that what we're looking at here is updating in real time. So if you're ever looking at a trend, you don't see this little arrow, that indicates that we're not updating in real time. So just to give you an example, we'll see this again later when we look at the time series, when you scroll backward and forward in time. But let's say I were to do this as a shift report. Let's go yesterday plus 7 hours to yesterday plus 15 hours. That's yesterday's day shift. Take a look at the trend. You won't see that little greater than sign. That's an indication that what we're looking at here is static.